Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks everyone for coming to Ideas on Becoming a Distinctive Destination of Choice. Many of you know me. I am Jared Wells. I am senior writer, creative lead, experience designer, sometimes jazz crooner, working with the Ideas team, a brand and experience design firm based in good old sunny Orlando. We've worked with many of you before, and it's nice to see some familiar faces here today. And a lot of you know that among the many sandboxes that Ideas has played in during its almost quarter century of being around, port destinations is one of them, and it's presented a world of opportunity for us, especially over the past decade, and working on everything from Perfect Day at Coco Cay to Port Oasis and Cartagena. And quite honestly, right now the cruise industry is going through a boom. There's more than 25 new ships coming online over the next 3 years. So there's never been a better time for destinations, port destinations especially, to ask themselves, am I a destination of choice, and how do I create distinction, particularly a distinction that is rooted in my own island's individual story or my own location's individual story? And today I'm pleased to be joined by several experts in the field whose combined experience definitely outpaces the time that I've been alive on this earth. So I would like to welcome today my fellow panelist, Mark Figueroa, the managing director and CEO of Aruba Ports Authority; Jose Negron, a renowned and revered cruise industry consultant;
Renowned.
and my friend, my colleague, and a self-professed enthusiast of light, Mark Edson, Ideas Director of Business Development. So, gentlemen, welcome. It's great to see you all again. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun. This is a very rich topic with a lot to discuss behind it. And I think before we get too much further, the topic is becoming a destination of choice. So I think the first question we need to ask to everyone, because everyone here has different perspectives: what is a destination of choice? And Mark, I'll toss that one to you first.
No, okay. Thanks, Jared. Hey, everybody. Yeah, there are just so many important elements to consider here. I'll go with from a passenger's perspective. It's bringing in every distinctive cultural, historic, or natural representation of a destination that makes it uniquely stand out from the rest of its competitive set. It's the music, the celebrations, the food. It's art and merchantainment. It's unique stories from their history and natural assets. It's the ease of access to in-port experiences and shore excursion and transportation services. It's having comfort facilities like clean restrooms and shade and water, and it's entertainment and education opportunities, and it's cultural immersion, and that means relationships with your people, and of course, safety and security. Now, from a cruise line perspective, it's different and maybe obvious, but that includes itinerary logistics and fuel efficiency, ease of navigation and bunkering, ease of guest access and security, opportunity for resupply, smooth and safe access to shore excursions that the guests will love and that the cruise lines can make revenue from as well. And from an RDE tenant perspective, they'd look at, hey, what's my consistent volume of interested passengers going to be? What's my ease of site access? What's my day going to be looking like if I'm loading, unloading, and parking to get to my space every day? Excuse me. And of course, they'd look at the economics of the lease, the competition, and general cleanliness and functionality of the environment. Tenants want to feel that you are their partner and have their best interest in mind too. That's me.
Absolutely. Well, and Mark Figueroa, that certainly would hit home with you, I'd imagine. And this question finds you at an interesting time. Of course, Aruba ports are going through a big transformation right now. So as you tackle that evolution of your destination, what is top of mind for you in making Aruba a destination that's distinctive, and one that's of choice?
Well, for us, it's very important is being the unique port in the Caribbean. We want to be differing from other destinations. Aruba has a strong brand already, but why would you come to Aruba? So that's what we want to envision and make that transformation. I think we are one of the top destinations in the Caribbean. And I think this is a crucial time, as you mentioned. The cruise industry is evolving. So we want to evolve and want to stand out, be the best one in the Caribbean.
Certainly, certainly. And Jose, I mean, you've worked on so many ports across the Caribbean, across the world. What are elements that you've seen of ports that create a successful distinction for themselves?
It's always been, the first and last impression where you're creating the wow factor. And, a father of four, where can I take my family and create such a good experience in a safe environment? And that's where I always try to bring to the table because I think about my family and what they want, which makes it easy to help and design and evaluate where I want to go or how we want to develop things.
Certainly makes sense. Are there any examples that you've worked on or visited even that jump to the top of your mind as a destination of choice? And if so, what are some of the things that they have done right?
I'll give an example. I mean, when I was living in Panama running a casino hotel, tourism created what they call the tourist police, where instead of everybody being in full uniforms, they had polo shirts. All the tourist police had bicycles. They all spoke English. They were all bilingual. So everyone felt safe to approach a police officer for guidance or where to go. They were like your official concierge, which was like a nice little wow factor. Your police officer weren't there to just protect you, but also guide you in your experiences and exploring that country as well. So that was something different.
Hmm, fascinating. And that brings me to another point here. I think that when you're talking about a destination of choice, obviously you're starting with the guest and thinking there. But with port destinations, they touch more than just cruise guests. They can be attractive to more than just cruise guests. You've got fly-in tourism, and you've also got community partners. And so Mark Figueroa, I'd like to understand because you're deeply entrenched in this. What is the process of making a port destination something that is a value add to the local community?
I think nowadays sustainability is a huge topic in the industry. So we want to be focusing on that. Provide the provision of shore power is in the pipeline. Um, uh, Cultivating the maintaining, valuing the cultural aspect, the local heritage, offering new experiences for the our visitors, focusing on affluent visitors. Um, Yes, as mentioned, Aruba has a strong brand. We attract a lot of stayover and cruise visitors. So those are the impact that you want to value more. That you cultivate the your local heritage, and also creating a direct relationship, protecting your local and your visitors together by providing an elevated service, a more qualitative service, and that both parties can enjoy and be satisfied with.
Sure. The local heritage point is very interesting because yeah, that's kind of the meeting point of both your guests and your local community. The guests come to a place because they want to experience that local heritage, and the locals, of course, are very proud of it because it's their identity. And Mark, you and I have been to several islands together now, and have been a part of a process that at Ideas we call it culture mapping, which is all about exploring that. And so I've certainly had my own experiences, but I'd love to hear your thoughts about how that process has shaped the way we've worked with ports like Aruba. And what are highlights of that process that you think really apply to all sort of destination design as it pertains to ports?
Thanks. The culture mapping leads me to sorry, folks, a little bit of ideas process, but it's probably important in all this. Um, as Jared mentioned, ideas was born more than 20 years ago at Walt Disney World, and we spun off as a brand and experience design firm built on the premise that powerful stories create powerful experiences. And we do what Walt Disney Imagineering and Disney Marketing do for the outside world, but but for a lot less money. Often, when a tourist thinks of a Caribbean island, they have the general perception of sameness. It's all wonderful, it's all beautiful, but it's all palm trees and sand and beaches and hair braiders and frozen drinks. And we want visitors to understand to know the people and the culture and the history and develop a long-lasting relationship with them and the destination. Learning is just, it's wonderful entertainment. So our design process starts first with understanding who our audiences are, where they're coming from. Are they singles? What letter generation are they? Are they families? Are they retired? Are there lots of kids? Are there no kids? What is their level of affluence? What are the locals like, and what do the locals like? What would engage them? As well as fly-in destination tourists. We want to offer things that are appealing to all of them. So with that in mind, understanding our audiences, we get into a piece of our process we call, Jared, as you mentioned, culture mapping. It's understanding the current background and stakeholder perceptions that relate to a particular project. And we hold discussions with small groups of your experts from different disciplines, cultural experts and historians, important cruise line operators and tourism folks and ShoreX providers and taxi drivers, all coupled with a bunch of discovery on our part. We want to get a very broad picture of as much culture and history and art and food and natural assets as we possibly can to have a giant research arsenal to pull from. So where culture mapping helps us to understand the current state of the project as relates to cultural discovery and stakeholder and market perceptions, Story Jam helps us to craft the optimal future condition of the project, what it should look like in its fully optimized future state. So with Story Jam, we harness the best thinking that a community and stakeholders have through a day-long exercise in storytelling. It's honestly, it's an absolute blast to do, and delivers way richer content than a typical charrette or brainstorming session. Prompted by intentional story writing activities, groups of generally 5 to 6 people at a table just work together to throw out all the ideas about a topic that they can, and then they write a couple paragraph story about it. The output from the Story Jam is a rich foundational story upon which new destination brands and the enormous portfolio of new experiences are designed. So if you believe that these are the key stories that you should be telling, then we look at the most powerful ways to tell them through experiences that will resonate with your specific audiences. If you need brand tuning, once we've built the brands and the marks and have sorted the activation experiences down to like 15 or 20 of the most likelies, we then go and market test them to prove audience affinity for them, where they fit in the affinity hierarchy, so we can tell you to go do these particular things now with the budget you have, and then go do these things in a phase 2 or later, delivering the biggest bang and return on investment and a plan for continuous refreshment. So when all that's sorted out and refined and aligned with budget and revenues, we'll then go put all of these experiences into a master plan for design build. So we do, as related to kind of difference in the market, we do design of all the stories and experiences first versus designing all the places and buildings. So know that our design process works if you've already got buildings. We'll meet you where you are, but our experience design process is most powerful when it precedes and informs everything that is to come. And it optimizes your design build budget, and it eliminates mistakes. So wrapping up on the culture mapping, we've had the privilege of working in a lot of different, mostly Caribbean destinations over the past few years. And story-based design plays in a million places and a million different industries. I'm really proud to say we've employed this very same Story Jam design process across all of our projects, and have been able to deliver a very different, a very unique brand experience at every engagement. But that's the end of my commercial. But it is important to understand the process and how we come about it.
Absolutely. And yes, in culture mapping, it really does help put our team in touch with not just the tropes and the stereotypes, but the reality of the lived experience of the place. And that is ultimately what we find that guests want to experience. And Jose, I'd like to feel this out to you. Are in your line of work and in your experience across the Caribbean, what have you seen as the effect of well done cultural storytelling at port destinations? Is how do you see that resonate, and do you think that does connote a distinction, and do you believe it's important in becoming a destination of choice?
No, absolutely. The facilities or locations that always start with the theme, which ties in with what you guys are doing. You have to have a theme because that will give you a total direction in where you want to go in designing and the look, and to make sure no one's deviating, because you have too many ideas, and if you deviate from the theme, the people are lost and they don't know what the story you're telling. So that way it's conducive to work with ideas, have a theme, and it all comes together because you're telling a story about your destination. And the people have done it well, and I try to tell a lot of different destinations. The guest feedbacks that I've gotten back are from the cruise lines. And unfortunately, I tell a lot of different destinations, look what the cruise lines are doing for their own private ports. This is what they're doing to spend their own money on their own guests. These are the same guests that destinations want. So they're basically raising the bar. And some of the comment cards are just out on the top 5 of all the comment cards in the Caribbean are their own ports. So you really have to look at what the cruise lines are doing. How can you elevate your destination to be even better what they have? Because they have set the benchmark, and that's what people are talking about. It's all the private destinations that have been designed.
That's a fascinating point. And it brings up, I suppose, an interesting challenge, because often, with those cruise line design private destinations, there's a good deal more. There's a single entity that's sort of guiding that, so to speak, in terms of the cruise line. But when you are creating a destination at a real place, not a designed place like Aruba, you're bringing in a whole lot of other people from the outside, from F&B and artisans and merchandise vendors. So both Jose and Mark Figueroa, I would love for you both to just talk about your experiences in trying to integrate all of these third-party individuals or companies to try and be a part of one unified vision for a port. Where have you seen that done successfully? What are the challenges, and what are ways that you have found to resolve those challenges to create a truly distinctive and harmonious destination?
Well, go ahead, Jose. Then I'll jump in.
Some of the destinations have done it well. I would say like St. Martin, they've done well to work with the people. They've had some challenges, but they also have overcome those challenges by working with the local communities. Prime example is, the traffic being so congested, getting out of the facility, and, fighting with the taxis or not agreeing with the taxi process. They actually created a water taxi, which actually created a beautiful experience for the customer, less congestion, created another experience for the passengers to go into town. And overall, it was a win-win. The satisfaction scores have gone up, which allow more time for the people to be on land and spend their money. I mean, to me, the recipe is, I keep it real simple, the 3 Ps: people, product, and process. If you got those in a line, you're able to achieve all the goals, but you have to have all the 3 Ps in line.
Yeah, and I completely agree. For Aruba, our location is perfect. We're right in downtown, so whenever there's a cruising port, you're just in downtown. The proximity to the beach, which is one of the main reasons why we have our visitors on the island. Um, we need to see first what is the priority, why our cruise visitors are coming. It's primarily for the friendliness of our people, the feeling of being safe and secure, and also the beaches. So you have to take all those components: the taxi, the agency, the maintenance, the tour operators, the independent tour operators. So everything we need to bring together. And I think we've been partnering up great with Ideas, who's assisting bringing every stakeholders at the table to so they can share their view and understanding of the product on both sides. So both sides from the port, both sides from the professionals that we have hired, and also from our side as the port. Um, Being that, and together we should be develop and work together to give the unique experience, though, as you mentioned, the wow factor that we are looking to create.
Excellent. Well, and clearly, obviously, so great diversity across your vendors and third parties that are involved in creating your port destinations, but also a huge diversity, in fact, an increasing amount of diversity among the people that are coming to your cruise ports. And I know that obviously cruising is becoming a major way to vacation. Not that it wasn't before, but it's exploding in a way we haven't seen in the post-COVID world, and that is extending from lower middle class all the way to the highest echelon of traveler. And so, Mark Figueroa, what have been measures that you have taken and considerations that you've been made to try and broaden the appeal so that no matter who is coming into your port, whether it is the more bargain set or whether it is the more premium set, how are you creating a good experience for all of them?
I guess the important is that you don't create a overcrowdedness on in your port. So you want to distinguish as a port that you have a adequate feeling that it's not crowded. That's where we want to focus on, and we have certain peers where we can accommodate specialty cruise lines as well. The demand for luxury cruise lines is increasing. You have the Ritz-Carlton, you have the Explorer Journey, you have the Silver Seas, you have several others that are coming up as well. So that's also we want to cater because they do have a certain another niche and a level of service that they do expect. So we want to cater to all of them and giving them the priority that is required to the service level of the cruise lines. So we are considering also to have a dedicated terminal or pier for these luxury turnarounds or the luxury cruise lines that are visiting. So that's where we're working together and how we can, in the event we want to venture in this direction as well, to accommodate these kind of this niche actually. I mean, we offer the connectivity. The airlift is very well managed. In with one stop, you can be in any part of the world out of Aruba. So connecting Europe and all major cities pretty much from the US, from East Coast to the Midwest. Um, Hotels, premium hotels on the island. So it gives us a certain advantage compared that we can work on and further develop.
Hmm. And Jose, in your experience, how have you seen that tightrope walked of appealing to people from such drastically different backgrounds, giving everyone an experience that is in line with their particular interests in visiting a port?
I mean, it's always good to know where do the majority of your customers come from, what regions of the world, because you have different cultures. You don't want to focus on a culture that only 10% of those come. You want to make sure everybody's happy, but remember where your customers come from. So you want to cater to those needs. When you're designing a port too, you have to realize I like to look at 4 generations. You have to make the same activity where grandma, the infant, daddy, and mommy can enjoy the facility. You have to take that into account, the 4 generation experience. And you don't have to be the most glamorous, but it has to be safe and clean. At the end of the day, all the destinations are here to make money. If the customers don't feel like they're in a safe and clean environment, they're not going to spend. I've noticed this firsthand. If the place is safe and clean, they will spend money. And at the end of the day, that's what tourism does, is to generate the economy of the local destination that we're going to. You know, that's why you have to create that wow experience. Take care of the family, and then the families will take care of you.
Well said.
I would offer one more little piece to that, just addressing diversity, and I hope I'm not messing you up in the question line, Jared. But
No, please.
yeah, just you know, the appeal of artistry, of we call merchantainment, people performing their crafts right in front of you and creating beautiful art. It is universal. Music and dance, they're universal. They appeal to virtually everyone. Every culture can appreciate art and music as it you don't have to do anything other than just let it in. Anyway, I offer those two things as being universally appealing from an experience standpoint.
I think you're absolutely right, Mark, and it's true, because when guests come to an island, that is their desire, is to visit a place. They've come there to experience what that is all about, and it doesn't really matter your background in terms of learning that island's identity. Sure, there are certain comforts that you may be accustomed to. There may be certain flavors that you have an inclination toward. You've got your own biases going in, but at the end of the day, most people want to be able to say, hey, I visited a place, and be able to have a story that's connected to that place. And I think that perhaps that's the true mark of any destination of choice, is that it leaves every guest that walks out of it, or wherever they're going, with a story that they can take home and share. So that place immediately becomes something that is special to them. And it keeps them coming back over time, hopefully, which brings us sort of back to our point of sustainability that you mentioned earlier, Mark. There's a phrase I know I've heard you use, and I've heard several others throughout this industry use, of high value and low impact. In terms of both attracting tourism, in terms of operating, in terms of partnering with the local community. So I'd like you to unpack what that means specifically to you over at in Aruba, and then maybe Mark and other Mark and Jose can jump in and add a little bit to that about their own experiences.
Yeah, for us is it means that we, as we mentioned earlier, you don't want to have to create an over tourism that you don't want to come to Aruba anymore because it's so crowded. That's something you want to regulate and focus on the high quality, high expenditure that it creates a spin-off economy, local economy for the locals. And it goes back to this, to protecting your local heritage, bringing more the local artists, being part of the program, catering to the to the to the visitors, and not only the visitors but the crew as well. So we want to envision this for the future, that as we mentioned, creating the wow effect. That's why we're looking to invest in this new the new port, let me call it this way, um, so we can stand out and be the destination of choice for the cruise in the cruise industry in the Caribbean.
I like to say Aruba has a unique problem. They have such high occupancy. They don't need to say, I need to build more hotels or more ships. How can you complement a successful formula? Because we're looking at Aruba, we have to be able to complement their successes, because they're already successful running high occupancy, great feedback, the cleanliness and the friendliness of the culture. So how do we complement all that, and which is unique to Aruba? So Mario has a nice problem. We have to look for ways that you can be more selective in the experiences, because they're doing very well already. And the challenge will be, how can we take it to the next level? They already have an A. How can we make it an A plus?
Agree. Certainly.
Yeah, it's a fascinating point. I and clearly, that has been a great joy for us is figuring out how to engage all those different elements toward creating that destination of choice, and it's an ongoing process, and we're having fun with it. I think as we sort of get into the latter half of this wonderful discussion, I would like us to think about how much of what we've talked about today applies to other port destinations out there. And what are some of the initial steps that these ports can take to start discovering that distinction and then enacting it? And Mark, maybe I'll toss that one to you.
Edson, I'm a me.
Yes, that Edson.
Okay.
Mark with a K. Apologies.
Yeah. I'll jump in with this. So travel is amazing, and every place we go, every place tourists go, you find magic there. It's magic in the people, magic in the art, and the food, and the music, and the cultural nuances, and the history. And as audience advocates, we want to engage guests in ways that will get them off the ship. We want them to stay longer, to visit more often, to spend more, and have greater satisfaction, and become advocates for us out in the marketplace. We want them to tell all of their friends in the market what a wonderful time they had. So yeah, in our travels, we've in the last few years, we've been around quite a few different Caribbean islands. We've been to the Dominican Republic. We're doing work in San Juan. We've done work in Antigua, St. Thomas, and certainly, of course, Aruba now. I'll use just one example, and I've got a couple, but I'll use one example during our trip to St. Thomas, and its learnings. That when you travel, and again, we discovered in St. Thomas, they're an island of dramatic hills and mountains and spectacular kind of rainforesty botanical gardens. There's mahogany trees, there's beautiful natural harbors, and beautiful beaches. And as the crossroads of the Caribbean, we've learned that there were stories and history of pirates and Spanish and Dutch and Danes and English, and there's African influence, and the Tainos and the Arawaks and other Caribbean island settlers. And we discovered, and Jared, you wrote this, I lifted it right from the destination story. St. Thomas is a zesty cultural callaloo, all blended together, a wonderful mix, but with each element still retaining its own essence. And if you don't know, a callaloo it's a wonderful native stew, and mixed together, it's synergistically all the better. But the elements of the stew all still remain, carry their own essence. I just St. Thomians, then the culture, it's a zesty cultural callaloo. And there we learned of Quelby and Bambula and steel drums and quadrille music and dance, and we learned about Mocha Jumbies and they're magical stilt walking spiritual healers and protectors of their people. We learned about Johnny Cakes and amazing bush tea, and we tried a few different types of rums. We learned, we experienced amazing artists of every type, painting and weaving and madras fabric printing and mosaics and carving and glass blowing and steel drum making. And so the point to that is we're trying to bring all of those stories and experiences to life there, so that every visitor can sample what it's like to be a St. Thomian, and make St. Thomas their destination of choice.
Absolutely, and I think that's true wherever you're located. One of the very first things that you can do to start creating distinction for yourself is to take a look at what you have, because every island has its own story, every island has its own lore, every island has its own unique contribution to the larger saga that is the Caribbean, and to highlight that is the goal, and it starts with a look inward and reviewing, and appreciating where you live and what you call home. Jose, what about you? What would you say are some of the early steps that ports can take to distinguish themselves and make themselves destinations of choice?
First and foremost, it's your people. I've always said you can go to the best restaurant with the best food. If that waiter is rude, obnoxious, not attentive, or I can go to a regular restaurant and that waiter just blew me away with attitude, all of a sudden that experience was a wow factor. So I like to compare, at the end of the day, it's your people. You can have the best product, but if you have the wrong people at the wrong place at the wrong time, it could be the worst experience. Your product can be average. It's your people that take it over the top. So at the end of the day, it's training your people. I always hire attitude. I never really hire experience. If you can smile to me in an interview, you're hired. So, if you can't hire someone that can't smile, don't hire them because you're in the hospitality business. You got to be a people person. Unfortunately, some people are not designed to be people person. So please focus always on training the right people, hiring the right people. Then your product would shine. You can have the best product, but the wrong person. Keep that in mind. It's your people.
Absolutely. Well, and so I'll derail us from this final question for a moment, just because Mark Figueroa, obviously, Aruba has such a strong brand of happiness and hospitality that it does own. So what have you seen successfully done in Aruba to carry that attitude, that spirit of your island across all of your service industries?
I think it's in our DNA.
Uh-huh.
Because that's why we are born and raised. So the tourism sector is our main source of income for the island. So the locals do value the importance of being nice to other people. It's just how we were raised and born. So it comes natural. You're not being taught. It comes natural from the heart. We value the all visitors. So it because we know how important it is for us. I think that's one of the primary reasons that has a factor that contributes to this success. I mean, back in the 80s, early 80s, we were depending on the oil refinery, but when that shut down, we had to focus on a new source of income for the for Aruba. Hence, we switched into tourism, and this is when it became a realization that the importance of tourism, that you have to be nice, you have to be a safe destination, so people can come and visit you. So, and that's something that I stand strong about, that we stand out compared to other islands in the Caribbean.
I'd like to add something. When I opened up the El Conquista Resort and Country Club, which was a 900-room resort in Puerto Rico in 1993, the comment cards from our guests, we really focus on hiring attitude. They said that person didn't know what the hell they were doing, but God, you can see he tried to make us happy. He was lost, and the customers were okay with things not being right because they saw the employee giving his heart. They were still learning. We went through the 1 year of the growing pains, but the customers were saying, "Wow, the people authentically was really trying to help us." And that's what I'm talking about, attitude. You don't have to be perfect, but the attitude has to be perfect that you're willing to try. And
Absolutely.
that'll bring the customers back. We had a saying in the hotel business, the people came over to hotels for the $10,000 pan, an average of 4 plane tickets. All they did was spend $10,000 to get a suntan. The cruise customer is different. The cruise customer is different because they're coming for experiences. They're not here for a $10,000 pan.
Exactly. Correct.
Indeed.
That's funny.
Well, and I think well, and again, I don't mean to take us off on more tangents, but Mark, I think that also speaks to some of the importance of the work that we've done creating enculturation programs as well, because there is obviously a spirit that pervades certainly in Aruba and elsewhere we visited in the Caribbean. All islands have their own unique sort of patois,
Identity.
hospitality, shall we say. But in terms of operationalizing that, into making sure everyone knows knows the proper facts about the island and knows how to direct people to the right places and all that, and to live the brands of the destinations that they're representing. What I think if you might just speak to some of how the enculturation programs that we've worked on help enact that, I think it would be valuable.
Oh, yeah, love to. Yeah, an enculturation program. We call it enculturation, which is a little bit more in depth. It is the longest lever that you can pull, the strongest, most powerful lever that you can pull in activating a brand. It teaches everybody in your sphere, every stakeholder, how to model your brand, how to treat your customers, how to treat each other, how to speak out in the marketplace. And we did a program in Grand Bahama Island. We're about I'm watching the clock here. I'm gonna be quick. In Grand Bahama Island, we called it It's a Grand Life. And Grand Bahama Island was struggling back then with attracting tourism, and they're like, okay, what do we do? How do we engage our people? And the intent of this was to turn every resident of Grand Bahama Island into an ambassador for the island. Or just like your DNA, Mark, they didn't have that at the time, and they were trying to teach that and teach all of their people through schools and churches and community meetings. We built an enculturation program training so that everyone would learn how to treat their customers, the best places to go, the best places to fish, the best places to eat. No, you don't want to go to that restaurant. You want to go to Mama Joe's restaurant over around the corner. You'll get authentic Bahamian. It's going to be amazing. So anyway, enculturation is a major component, a significant component of nearly every delivery that we do, because it does align everyone's behavior so that you're all singing off the same page. And it's super powerful in sustaining your destination experience and creating those relationships that people will bring back home with them.
Beautifully said. And I apologize. I derailed that, but it was a valuable sidebar, and I will bring it back to the final question for you, Mark Figueroa. What, in your opinion, are the first steps that port destinations like yourself can take to bring out distinction in their experience?
I think you have to have an open mind. Listen to your feedback that you're getting from the professionals, from the cruise line industry, from your local community. Those are crucial in order to evolve yourself as a distinctive destination. Keep investing in your people. Don't sit down and be comfortable. Go the extra mile. Never get comfortable. I want to stress on that fact, because if you get comfortable, others will surpass you. So, and that's what we are here for, and that's what we're looking to achieve together with you guys.
Marvelous. And we're honored to be a part of that journey, and there's lots more stories to tell together. So I know all of us are excited about it. And thank you all for that very, very robust discussion. I think there was a lot of talking points that came out of that. And so with the time that we've got left, I'd love to open up to any of our devoted and dedicated audience members. If you have any questions for us, any comments, any cheers or jeers, please feel free to pop them into the chat below. Or raise your hand. I think you can do that now on this wonderful platform. So yeah, if any questions, let us know. We do have a question, I believe. Yes, there's one that came in.
Love to hear more about designing guest pathways. Jared, you ought to jump on that one.
Absolutely.
All the elements that go into that.
Absolutely. Guest pathways, that's sort of a term that we have for ideas of a visual model that we create that is based on our design story, that sort of shows the ideal day in the life of an individual as they experience a property. And so, that starts all the way back with audience research. We figure out who's coming, to the destination. And, sometimes it's very narrow and targeted, and sometimes, particularly when it comes to support destinations, it's very broad, and there are a lot of different audiences that we're trying to take into account. And so the guest pathways model is something that sort of evolves organically out of thinking about, okay, well, these are these people, this is where they're from, this is what they want to do while they're here, these are their constraints, these are their concerns, these are certain biases or stereotypes we might have to overcome. So start with that, and then we use narrative to sort of design the experience around them, and really write a true story about, this is what this person does. And in that story, they have conflict, they have they face the challenges that we can anticipate them having, and we suggest solutions that help them either overcome that challenge in a meaningful way or avoid it completely. And all of that sort of comes together into one larger master narrative that gives us a snapshot of what a day in the life of a destination really, really looks like. And then, and sometimes that's a very long narrative, but it's always very rich and very instructional in terms of, this is the kind of destination we want to create, and the kind of destination that you need to be. And the pathways then kind of fall back out of that as bullet points of, this is what happens, this is what happens, this is what happens. These are the value drivers of all of the things that guests encounter while they're there. And ultimately, this is what they walk away with and will drive them to hopefully return. So that is in essence how we define a guest pathway.
Great question.
Yes, wonderful questions.
I'd like to add too, the one thing I take in pride is actually talking to your customers. A lot of my ideas have come straight from listening to what they're telling you, because whatever I think doesn't matter. It's what they think, because they're the ones that are spending the money, even to generate more revenue. The customers will steer you in the right direction if we just ask them right when they're on the spot.
Absolutely. And always doing after action and follow-ups and satisfaction surveys are incredibly important to continue refining that destination, because audience tastes are ever changing and your work is never ever done. And it's which makes it fun to reinvent all the time. I'll turn it back. If are there any other questions out there in the audience? Well, I think that means that we are incredibly intelligent, and we answered any possible questions that anyone in the world could ever have about.
That was brilliant.
Our work here is done, gentlemen.
Drop the mic.
So with that, I would like to thank all three of you for participating in this discussion and offering your unique perspectives and experiences, very different, but all aligned and all essential components of really creating a destination of choice for any port. Everyone who dialed in and listened to our discourse, I'd like to thank you as well. And if you have any questions or any follow-up comments or anything to add to this, feel free to connect with any of us and reach out to us and share your thoughts, because hopefully this isn't the last of these kind of discussions we'll be having. And also, if you aren't already, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, us at Ideas, or any of these other gentlemen. I'm sure they also have Facebooks and Instagrams.
Yes, they do.
And obviously, please connect with us over as well. And if there's a destination out there that needs a story, that needs that bit of distinction, we'd obviously love to help you out with that. And be sure to give Mark with a K ring.
I was just gonna say, way to go, sales guy. Nice job.
I've learned well. But anyways, thanks again, everybody, for joining in. And I'm going to wish you smooth sailing for the rest of your day. Bon voyage.
Mark Jose, thank you so kindly. Audience, thanks so much. Yeah, this was really fun.
Absolutely.